Welcome to Rays of Hope, where inspiration meets possibilities. How to overcome perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt like you're not good enough, no matter how hard you try? That's the hallmark of perfectionism and imposter syndrome. These two issues often go hand in hand, feeding off each other and creating a vicious cycle of self-doubt. Perfectionism sets impossible standards, and when we inevitably fall short, imposter syndrome convinces us that we don't deserve our achievements. Understanding how these two concepts are linked is crucial. They affect not just your work but your overall happiness and well-being. By addressing them together, you can break free from the cycle and start achieving your true potential. In this guide, we'll dive into practical strategies to help you conquer both perfectionism and imposter syndrome for good. Understanding perfectionism. Perfectionism is more than just wanting to do well. It means going overboard, setting sky-high standards, and being super critical of yourself. Let's dig deeper into what perfectionism really is, the different forms it takes, and how it messes with your mental health. Definition and traits of perfectionism. Perfectionism is about striving for flawlessness. Sounds good, right? Not quite. It often involves setting standards that are nearly impossible to meet. Here are some key traits. Unrealistic standards. You aim for goals that are way too high. Overly critical. You beat yourself up over small mistakes. Fear of failure. You worry a lot about failing, so you overprepare. Procrastination. Because you want everything perfect, you delay starting tasks. Think of it like trying to climb Mount Everest with no training. It's not practical, and you end up feeling exhausted and disappointed. Types of perfectionism. Perfectionism isn't one size fits all. It comes in different flavors. Here are the main types. Self-oriented perfectionism. You set those crazy high standards for yourself. Other-oriented perfectionism. You expect others to meet your high expectations. Socially prescribed perfectionism. You believe others expect you to be perfect. Imagine juggling 3 flaming torches. Each type of perfectionism adds a different torch, making things way harder to manage. Effects of perfectionism on mental health. Perfectionism can take a toll on your mental well-being. It's like carrying around a heavy backpack all the time. Anxiety. Constantly worrying about making mistakes can make you anxious. Depression. The never-ending cycle of not being good enough can lead to feeling hopeless. Burnout. Trying too hard for too long can leave you completely drained. Perfectionism is like running on a treadmill that never stops. You're always moving but never getting anywhere, leaving you tired and frustrated. Understanding these aspects of perfectionism is the first step toward tackling it. Once you realize how it works and how it affects you, it becomes easier to manage and overcome. Delving into imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is more common than you think. It creeps into our minds, making us feel like we're pretending, even when we're not. This section will help you understand what imposter syndrome is, what causes it, and how it impacts our professional lives. Definition and traits of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the feeling that you're a fraud. Despite your achievements, you believe you don't deserve them. This can make you feel like you're constantly lying to others about your abilities. Some common traits include self-doubt. You question your skills and fear being exposed as a fraud. Attributing success to luck. You think your successes are due to luck rather than your talent or effort. Overworking. You work extra hard to ensure no one finds out you're faking it. Think of imposter syndrome as wearing a mask. No matter how well you do, you worry someone will pull the mask off and reveal you as a fake. Causes of imposter syndrome. Several factors can cause imposter syndrome. It often starts early in life and can be influenced by various factors. Family expectations. Growing up with high parental expectations can make you feel like you're never good enough. Societal pressures. Society often values success, making you feel inadequate if you don't measure up. Personal experiences. Past failures or criticism can leave a lasting impact, creating fear and doubt. It's like trying to fit into a mold that wasn't made for you. No matter how hard you try, it feels impossible to fit perfectly. Effects of imposter syndrome on professional life. Imposter syndrome doesn't just stay in your head, it spills over into your work life too. Here are some ways it can affect your professional career. Reduced job satisfaction. When you doubt your abilities, it's hard to feel happy and fulfilled in your job. Increased stress. Constantly feeling like a fraud can cause high levels of stress and anxiety. Hindered career progression. You might avoid taking on new challenges or opportunities for fear of failure, which can stall your career growth. Imagine trying to climb a career ladder, but every rung feels shaky. You're afraid one wrong step will make you fall, so you either stay put or move very cautiously. Understanding imposter syndrome is the first step to overcoming it. Recognizing these traits and their impacts can help you take action towards a more confident and fulfilling professional life. The connection between perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome often travel together. They share similarities, but they also have key differences. Understanding both can help you break free from the cycle of self-doubt and stress. Commonalities and differences. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome have a lot in common, but they aren't the same thing. Knowing their similarities and differences can clear up some confusion. Similarities. Self-criticism. Both involve being very hard on yourself. Fear of failure. You worry a lot about not meeting expectations. High anxiety. Both can make you feel very anxious and stressed. Differences. Focus. Perfectionism focuses on doing things perfectly. Imposter syndrome is about feeling like a fraud despite achievements. Origin. Perfectionism often starts with setting high personal standards. Imposter syndrome usually begins with external validation concerns. Think of perfectionism as a tightrope walker aiming for balance and flawlessness. Imposter syndrome feels like a disguise, where you fear someone will remove the mask and reveal your true self. The vicious cycle. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome can create a vicious cycle. One can lead to the other, making it hard to escape. Here's how it happens. Perfectionism sets impossible standards. You set high goals, believing you have to be perfect. Falling short. When you don't meet these standards, you feel like a fake. Imposter syndrome kicks in. You think any success is due to luck, not your skills. Increased pressure. To avoid being exposed, you work even harder. More perfectionism. The cycle repeats as you set even higher standards. Imagine trying to climb a mountain with a heavy backpack. Each step gets harder, and the summit seems further away. You keep adding weight, expectations, making the climb, life, exhausting. Understanding this cycle is the first step to breaking it. By recognizing how these issues feed off each other, you can start finding ways to manage and overcome them. Strategies to overcome perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Dealing with perfectionism and imposter syndrome can feel like fighting an invisible enemy. Luckily, there are effective strategies to manage these challenges and reclaim your confidence. Let's explore some practical approaches to help you overcome them. Cognitive behavioral techniques. Cognitive behavioral techniques, CBT, work by changing the negative thought patterns that feed perfectionism and imposter syndrome. It's about training your brain to think differently. Reframing negative thoughts. Start by identifying negative thoughts such as, "I'm not good enough," or "I must be perfect." Then, challenge these thoughts by asking yourself, "Is this really true?" Replace them with positive affirmations. For example, instead of thinking, "I failed at this task," try, "I did my best, and I learned from this experience." That's it for part 1 of our guide on overcoming perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue exploring strategies to help you conquer these challenges. See you in the next video. Thank you for joining us on this uplifting journey with Rays of Hope. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe to stay tuned for more videos that spark hope and empowerment.